YouTube was good. Leekautorepair. Got a voiceover for y'all. It's gonna be working on a 2012 Chevy Malibu 2.4 engine. It doesn't matter if it's the 3.6. I believe that's what the other replacement is. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Whatever. There's either 4-cylinder or V6, and on this one, I'm going to be showing you how to replace your front pads and rotors. Won't take you that long. Should take you every bit of for you. Probably should take you up to 30 to 40 minutes. For me, or it could take you an hour. It's always a matter of 15-20 minutes because my setup is a lot faster than yours, and I've done a job a billion times over and over again. Y'all gonna be hearing me smoke in the background, talking my S or whatever, my shit. I don't know why I'm not saying the whole word, but YouTube just been confusing me lately on how I want to talk or whatever. So we're gonna click the video in a second. I'm waiting for like the file to come up. I just got like a funny comment about somebody that was like, let's read this comment real quick before I start because it was, it's kind of funny. Oh, the name of the person, Justin Dow Scammer. He left this comment like 5 hours ago. He said, "You a lot better than that shield, Dow." He is currently banging Jason Young, I guess Jay Young's sister. Also sold his big icon toolbox. Like, I don't care about the icon toolbox, but hey, if he banging Jay Young's sister, then I guess he winning. It is what it is. But that was kind of like funny a little bit. Let me go ahead and click the video. I do get comments, y'all. Just some I will receive, and whatever. It is what it is. So let me go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to be doing basically is taking off the lug nuts for the tire. And if you can't handle that, then you don't need to be doing a job like this, because if you can't take the tire off, how can you take the brake caliper off, yet alone the brake pads? I'm just saying, if you struggle to take 5 lug nuts off, 19mm socket, use a 1/2-inch gun, air tools or electric tools. If you're in your driveway, most likely you probably got an electric gun, because I don't really know too many people who cranking shit by hand anymore like that. I mean, the cost of just buying electric power things is just, it's not a problem anymore. Alright, so I got my little light set up in the wheel well, and I'm going to rotate the rotor out to the right towards me, so that way I can reach the 215. Actually, I want to take off the caliper itself, not the bracket. I'm jumping ahead. So that bolt is a 14mm bolt. Use a wrench or like a regular socket, 3/8 or 1/2 inch, whatever you decide. And don't worry about the top bolt. All I gotta do is swing the whole caliper up, and you have it sit like that. And I'll show you how to pull it out in a second. I'm taking my dual piston compressor to push the piston back in a bore. You can use a single or you can use a dual. I have a dual, so depending on how you set it up, you can use it for a single. So bam. So push it back all the way until it bottoms out on the board so you can't push no more. And I use a brake pad to give me some extra trigger action. Now go ahead and take the brake pad, rest of the brake pads off, took the outer one off. And now I'm going to slide the boot back to expose the pin and then separate it from the caliper bracket itself. Now I'm not going to like leave it hanging. I let it like hung off on top of the knuckle itself. So now I took a 15mm socket, it's 1/2 inch. And I'm taking off the 2 bolts for the caliper bracket. And like I said, just 2 15mm bolts. That's the only thing that's like really holding it in. And I'm going to put that on the ground. Then your rotor should be able to separate. If it don't separate, just take a hammer and whack at it and it'll separate. So now pay attention to this. I'm walking up to my box and getting over a wire brush because I'm going to scrub the mating surface for the rotor basically. And it's for the mating surface, so that way the rotor won't get stuck on there for the next mechanic. I like to do cool stuff like that so that way the rotor should really just fall off when you take the caliper off. I don't do rust anyway. If I could clean it, I'll clean it. That's just how I am. So take that off. So next, I guess I'm opening up my box. You see I have dealership brand AC Delco brake hardware, the 2 rotors and the pads itself. The pads come with new shims and stuff. So let's go ahead. I'm going to spark up my L in the background too. Y'all know how I like to get litty up in here. Go ahead and do my thing. And I don't know why I'm struggling. I should have just used a razor to separate the tape from like the box or whatever, or break the tape open. So pulling the rotor out. Match up your rotors too. You're gonna put them side by side. Oh yeah, I'm putting a box underneath the rotor too, so that way when I clean it off with brake cleaner, the dirt and stuff will fall on the box itself rather than the floor. You can do that. But match up the rotor side by side, do a comparison, and while you're doing the comparison, I'm gonna go ahead and take my puff of my L and just do how I do when I do how I do. You feel me? So let's go ahead and let. You notice I got the rotor on roll purposely because this is my method. This is my way of cleaning the backside of the rotor without it getting dirty. I don't have to worry about extra dirt, extra stuff that won't come off because I didn't touch the backside. But I flipped it over a certain way where I don't have to touch it. I just use that palm of my fucking hands. I mean, use the palm of my hands. So now I'm taking the brake, the bracket. Caliper bracket, and I'm cleaning it off. You got two options. You can clean it off, clean off the shims, or you can replace the shims. But I showed you what you can do to clean it. Just take brake cleaner and just spray the shims. You want to remove all brake dust and dirt, basically. It ain't going to be like looking bright because the shims are kind of like worn a little bit, but at least you can get it clean so that way when you lube up your pads, the shims is kind of like lubed up at the same time too. So take your gun, tighten the two 15mm bolts for the caliper bracket, and then I guess I'm going to, what am I doing next? Replacing my shims, taking the bottom one off, and in my pack, you get it. Shims, they come with a variety of different ones. I had ones that had two different sets in there in case the one set didn't work. So you just gotta really pay attention to what's what. Match them up, make sure they look exactly alike. If they don't look look alike, I wouldn't use it. Just use the old one because you could use some new shims like they'll rub on a rotor, start making noise and doing all types of retarded shit, and we don't want that problem. So you see how I'm doing a side by side comparison? We look right, we look Gucci. So I'm gonna go ahead. I just literally just threw it on the ground just like that. That's how I work. And pushing it up onto the bracket is a fitted like groove. It fits in a certain way, so it's like you really can't mess up, nothing like that. Kind of like dummy proof basically. So I'm looping up my sliding pin with brake caliper grease, and I lube the bottom one up. The top one is on the caliper, brake caliper itself. So I'm gonna lube that before I put it back on the bracket. Now I'm taking my brake pads in. Be careful on this part because in my box I have two brake pads that have the wear indicators on there, like little metal thing just that rubs on the rotor when your pads is low. I noticed some manufacturers make them where you can put the brake caliper, put the pad on outside of the rotor, but then some cars you can't put it on the outside of the rotor, it won't fit because of the caliper itself, but then some of them designed for it to go on the inside. On this application, you're going to make sure that the wear indicator is on the inside. I guess it could be facing up or down, it doesn't matter, but make sure you put it on the inside. You put it on the outside, it won't work, and you'll see that in a second. Just pay attention. You'll notice I'm trying to like put this on, and the wear indicator is sticking up, it's touching a part of the caliper itself. So bam, so I had it on wrong. It's not about if you're doing it wrong or nothing like that. It's just a certain way the pads go. So if you can't get it on, you'll know why. So flip the pad around and put it on as the right way it's supposed to be. But more so, I wanted to show you this part because I run into calipers all the time where I got on the outside and the inside you got wear indicators, and I get on some cars you don't. Now I was reading a text message. I'm sorry. So now you saw that I lubed the top slotting pin that was already still on the caliper itself that I never removed. Push your boot back in, and like with the whole pin, slotting pin itself is a certain way that it goes onto the my shim is in a way. Make sure you pay attention to the shim part. Make sure the shim is not caught up in between the bracket and the caliper itself, because that will prevent your caliper from sitting flush down, and you won't be able to get your bolt on. You're going to be struggling with it. So I took like a flathead screwdriver and I kind of like bent it back, or I just make sure that it's not like caught up in between like where the rotor at and the caliper itself. So once I get that straightened out, I'm going to take my 14mm bolt. Then I'm going to line it up with the sliding pin. And the sliding pin, you might have to rotate like the flange that mounts to the caliper itself. You're going to have to rotate that around because it's fitted a certain way. Like you got like it's grooved, not grooved a little bit, but it goes on a certain way. It has like a certain position that's supposed to be rotated around so it sits flush. then go ahead and put your bolt in and tighten it. You don't have to apply a tremendous amount of force, but once it stop, quarter-inch turn, you Gucci. The bolt is small. You don't need to be hitting it with no gun and no nothing like that or whatever. So now I want to straighten out the rotor. Take some brake cleaner, clean off just a little bit. Now pop the hood. I want to check my brake fluid level. I want to see what it's like before, and you want to see what it's like after, because that'll determine if you should add some or you got way more than enough. Then you need to remove some of it just a little bit, suck some of it out, just to keep it at the level. Pump your brake pedal 10 times. You can do it like until it get tight, but I tell people pump it like 10 times. That's just, some people might just be weak. They don't know how to pump anything. So just do 10 times. It's an overkill, but at least your pedal will be tight. Check your brake level. See, I'm shaking the reservoir. I'm at where I'm supposed to be at. I don't have to add anything. If you do need to add something, it's deep. Dot 3 fluid, says it on the cat. And make sure it's at the level. Do not add more. Do not add too much, because some people keep adding brake fluid, and by the time you go back to go get, some people think because they brake fluid level is low that they might need brakes, but then when they go get the brakes done and the fluid comes back, now it's well over the max line, because the fluid is going to draw down when your brakes get low, is what I'm saying. But not all the time you need brake fluid. It all depends. But when you're doing your brakes and stuff, afterwards you want to make sure your brake fluid level is right. Me, that's just rule of thumb. That's just general, basic, common C-Tech rules and just basic stuff that you need to know. And that's all I got to say. So I'm Leekautorepair. I did have a video for y'all. Well, I recorded, but then I kind of stopped. But I'm going to post something else in between a bunch of things I'm doing right now. My Mazda CX-7, rebuilding the top end of the engine, like the head pretty much, and put new valves in there, new valve seals, new timing, new timing components, new cam phaser, a whole lot of stuff I'm doing. Kind of ain't cheap, but making progress. So we'll probably try to, I don't even know if I'll be able to film some of that car, because I've been working on it in the dark, and I'm not like recording in the dark. You get shitty video quality, but it is what it is. So I'm Leekautorepair. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Make sure y'all subscribe, and stay tuned for whenever I post a video. Y'all know how I do when I do what I do. I'll let y'all.